just on my name and hands. Preacher said, son, stay straight, but he never did understand. Sheriff took my daddy's land for a deal that turned to dirt. So I took my pride and my 45 and I gave back what he earned. Yeah, I broke the law, but the law broke first. It turned his back when the good folks heard. You can call me sinner, you can call me cursed, but I broke the law, 'cause the law broke first. Judge in town wore a Sunday smile, but he drank with the devil at night. Told me, boy, you can't win that fight, but I've been wrong and right. So I lit a match to the courthouse steps, watched the truth go up in flames. Sometimes you gotta make your stand, even when they call your name. Yeah, I broke the law, but the law broke first. It turned its back when the good folks heard. You can call me sinner, you can call me cursed, but I broke the law, 'cause the law broke first. Now I ain't no hero, I ain't no saint, but I know damn well what justice ain't. If the law won't bleed for the people's word, then it ain't worth the paper it's written on, sir. Yeah, I broke the law, but the law broke first. I broke the law, but the law broke first. You stole my faith and left me worse. You can call me wanted, I've seen worse, 'cause I broke the law when the law broke first. Say I was wrong, I've heard it all, but deep down you know what I'm worth. I broke the law, 'cause the law broke first. The law.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control. Late night in Moscow, where nothing ever happens.
eternal pain.
Here we
go. Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What's going on, Hive? I hope everybody had a fantastic Easter and had some time to spend with their family. I got the audio coming in loud and clear. Tonight is going to be a huge stream, okay? We have a DoorDash delivery that does not behave like a normal delivery. We have the person inside waiting for about an hour and 45 minutes. We have a name tied to the delivery that doesn't cleanly line up with the rest of the timeline and the activity that's going on within that house, seeming how just a couple of minutes later, 4 people were murdered inside of it. And we're supposed to just accept, quote unquote, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. And that's a no from me, dog. That's not an answer. That's dismissal whenever we're told that. It really is. And in the real world, as we know, when one thing looks off, you could, question it, right? Something that doesn't line up, you should question it. 2 things look off. Okay, this is getting pretty suspicious. 4, 5, 6, 30, 1,000. That's not random things that just don't make sense, everybody. That is a design. Okay? And we are going to be talking about Miss Molly McMichael in, again, what I believe to be a bombshell. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Birdie. I go live weeknights at 7 p.m. Central. Welcome to the Hive Mind. This is a contrarian thinking live stream. We think past the headlines. We question the narratives. We don't just accept simple answers. And we hang out here in the Hive every evening at 7 p.m. and we have a discussion. We like to get past the initial disagreement and try to find the truth. And if the truth is redacted and hidden 10 ways to Sunday, well, then we theorize and we try to piece together the missing puzzle pieces, one might say. So I'm going to go ahead and say what's up to everybody. Please, as you're filing in, Hive, hit that like button. All you got to do is scroll down on the chat, tap like, hit subscribe. All of that's free. If you do want to use the emojis, the birdie emojis, and get the Hive next to your username, that's Hive Plus. The mods will be dropping that link to join Hive Plus into the chat throughout the stream. Anybody who does sign up for that, I really appreciate it. And if you want to screenshot this after the live concludes, all you got to do is go into your phone or go onto your phone into your Photos app, tap the QR code, and that will bring up all of the Hive's socials. I would highly recommend joining our Discord. And here are the emojis for Hive Plus. I believe that we're going to be able to make as many of those as we want. Right, mods? So if anybody's got a fun one that they want to send over via email, we just need the PNG file or the JPEG file. You probably have to Google what size it has to be for the requirements. But nonetheless, these are awesome. It's always fun to see those in the chat. And I'm going to go right into the Discord question of the day. I'm pretty sure this comes from Brandon Rudder, but on Discord, his name's Bratibler. And I'm going to assume it's Brandon. He asked, do you think that they knew this was going to happen? Listening to all of these interviews, I just don't think that they couldn't have. Well, I don't think these are, quote, stupid kids. They aren't exactly criminal geniuses. And I don't mean the actual planners / perps. I mean the people that are supposed to stop these events from happening. They might not have known exactly how it would go down, but they have all the info, locations, social media, AI code breaking, cameras, satellites, cell phone tower information, phone conversations, texts. They would see all the scheming, right? Legality is besides the point. They see all, they just let it happen, in my opinion, at least. And I think that that's a very well said, thought out question / statement. Those new interviews of some of the Sigma Chi members are pretty telling. The Kelvin dude that says, I don't really drink that much, but I can tell you right now, none of my brothers would ever know if I snuck out at 3 when everybody's drunk. They would never question it. And I don't think it'd be that hard to get away with it. And I found it a little bit odd when there wasn't, sexual mutilation and it was just killing to kill. And then you got Conrad, who's saying some pretty weird stuff too, and interesting things. Definitely seems as if they, meaning the people on campus, have a good idea of if it was somebody on campus, who it might be and why. Without saying it, they don't really need to. It comes through in that interview. If you have not watched those interviews, go check out the stream that I did on Saturday night. Some people were asking about that in the comments. It was just a random Saturday late night stream. I was going to be watching those interviews anyways. I figured I'd pop on here. And so it was fun. It was fun. We did about a 3-hour stream. We watched 2 of the interviews, Kelvin and Conrad. So if you do want commentary for those, you can go check those out. Other than that, if you just want to watch them, you can go to Connor.H8, his profile page on YouTube, for just the interviews. Now, I'm going to say what's up to everybody. I wanted to say that Discord question first before I do anything else, because after I say what's up, we are going to fully focus on this DoorDash order. I think that we're going to have one of 2 ways now that this really happened. I've been thinking through this all day. Curious to get your thoughts on it. And I think it's going to be a good one, to say the least. What's up, Avi? And you can't redact me. UFO Dog, Sadie LaFoon. They can't redact my beehole. Growth Renewal, CGE 333, Miss Summer Love, Denise, Bridget, Melissa, Q-Brain, High Heels and Henny, Rose for You Love, Gamilla, Twisted Timo, Blue Eyed Candy, how are you doing? Deb, Crystal, Social Glow, Luna, Laid Bear, Davina, Chickadee, Chickadee, Luna Bliss, Sue, Sleepless in South Africa, Mary Tyler, UK Karen, Sydney, Sleuther Dare, always great to see you. Love and Other Habits, La Cheek, It's the Trauma. Thanks, Mom. It's one of my favorite usernames. Brandon, Nurse Redacted, Jessica L. Price, Jessica Abigail, Jess, Julian, Birdie BB23, what's up? Hibiscus Girl, Jenny, Natalie, Paul, Donnybrook Kennels, K Manifesto, Teary Daw, don't drink chunky milk. It's great advice. Miss Lisa B, Wildflower Wraith, Big Plants, Little City, hello. Brian Biggs, tuning in from Chi-Town. Nubs Peace, Jill, Lola, and Polar Life Force. V. Ronnie is tuning in from New Zealand. So, again, thank you to everybody who does press the like button, hit subscribe. Thank you so much for spending your Monday evening here in the Hive. So, let's get into this, shall we? I'm going to start with, first and foremost, I was doing some research, right? Everybody's familiar with Molly McMichaels. Okay. As soon as the body cam came out, was it Plunder True Crime or Translucent, I believe, got the DUI video, and she starts talking, being Molly, about how she saw Brian. She's going to have to testify. I remember the DoorDash driver being rumored to have been a male in the beginning. It sounds like a lot of other people remember that too. If you even watch Asgit, the animation chick who does all the stuff for Dateline, what is interesting about that is they even say they use a male. Now a lot of people have their opinions on Dateline, myself included, as well as that animation being completely just the mainstream talking points. However, it is interesting that they say male. Now, Molly, the record that Molly has would be maybe a little bit interesting, that she would be employed where she's having to drive if she doesn't have insurance, or what else could potentially be on her record. My mod Luna had sent me a text about that. That's a great point. But I started looking up, how long does an average DoorDash delivery take? Jeez. And this is just from ChatGPT, but it says a reasonable real world estimate for DoorDash in a college town for fast food that's nearby would be about 20 to 35 minutes total. So a large U.S. study found DoorDash averages about 26 minutes per delivery overall. And college towns do tend to be shorter distances, but also higher order volume, driver congestion, especially at places like McDonald's or Taco Bell. Drivers report pickup delay of 10 to 20 minutes at busy fast food spots during peak times. Okay, so you go plus or minus, or you go plus 10 or 20 minutes, so that'll take you to 45 minutes, 55 minutes. I wouldn't be shocked if it took about an hour, depending on when. But 2:15's late. I don't know how many people right before Thanksgiving are going to be getting food that were even on campus necessarily. And when it's an hour and 45 minutes and there's no communication with the driver, that's another thing too. If the order is taking forever to get picked up, or let's say that your driver shows up to the restaurant and the food's not ready or they're packed, I've had drivers message me and say, hey, it's going to be a little bit longer. I'm still waiting. Right? And there's no communication until after Molly has been meandering around right next to the King Roadhouse, just walking by it over and over and over and over and over again. Like I said, she could have stepped out of her car, tripped on a rock, and tumbled into 1122. That's how close she is. And she's just all over the place. Doesn't know where she's at. And DoorDash has an unbelievably accurate map, especially when you're walking around. There's a lot of people that request their food to be handed off directly to them. Some will leave it at their doorstep. I've done it both ways. But it's a simple delivery that is very complicated when it comes to the timeline. Jack in the Box, drunk, late night food should not be this suspicious. The timing points of it, the lack of data on Xana's phone, the driver and her story and what she allegedly sees. I do find it interesting at that exact same time that Molly's wandering around, the guy that they say at 350 on the Linda Lane car park camera, the clad in black, is walking towards King Road. Did Molly see him? Has anybody thought about that? At 350 and some change, that's right when in the reports they talk about the guy who's clad in black walking towards King Road, walking towards the residence. Molly's been out in that area damn near doing a security patrol loop. And somehow she sees Brian, but doesn't see the guy in all black walking towards the house. So it's just very interesting. Yep. So Jules as a diamond said the sticky note on the bag with her name is a Sharpie marker. Right. Exactly. So that's a good point. Let me pull this up. Because most times, what you guys are going to notice is, let me show you this. Because Jules as a diamond brings up a very, very interesting point. Okay, so we have a DoorDash delivery. And would you look at that? Typically, the receipt would have it printed. Would have it printed on there. Okay, now people are going to say maybe, and I don't know, they could have changed it where they're not handwriting it, but it does seem a little bit strange that they would handwrite the name onto it. You would think it'd be typed out. Right? So I want everybody to stay focused now on what I just said, how it's extremely sus. There are so many things around the DoorDash. Think of how important this DoorDash is. all the way into the evidence photos too, where there's a plate with curly fries that's on the ground. And Blue Eyed Candy, thank you so much for the super chat. As a reminder, any super chat over $4.99 will pop up right here. I will do my best to address it immediately. And if I don't get to it, I try to get them at the end of the stream. Blue Eyed Candy said Molly's story, quote unquote, needs a birdie deep dive into how death follows her, husband's death, etc. Well, it is interesting that you bring that up, Blue Eyed Candy. That is a great segue into my next slide. So you guys are going to be mind blown at this when I tell you this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. When I saw this, it only had a couple hundred likes from available at not available. This is one of the biggest things that I believe he's broke, and he actually references Lana in this, and there's text messages, okay? I don't know how many people have seen this, but I saw this today for the first time, and my head about blew off my shoulders, okay? So I'm going to, let's watch this here.
Well, go figure, took you long enough. This looks like a confession that Molly McMichael is indeed Gloria and was used and preyed on her vulnerabilities at the time. For example, the 4 a.m. narrative. Those are the messages between a person who doesn't want to get mentioned and Gloria. I highlighted in red the most important part. Molly appears to be a fictional person who was always there whenever she was needed. Played by Gloria. Straighten out the story. So if Molly is a fictional person, what do you think about her husband, Pat McMichael, who got allegedly unalived by this guy way back in 2013, where Molly testified against Mr. Nisbet? I couldn't find any photos of Pat McMichael. Did he even exist? Because fortunately, Gloria and her sweetheart have been together for over 15 years, and Molly was some kind of key witness in the Idaho 4 case and told the body cam she was the DoorDash driver and parked right next to Brian Kohlberger. Are both items staged?
So one, I am so sorry for how damn loud that was. Okay, I'm going to replay that. I don't know why that went that loud. Hopefully this time you guys can actually hear it and understand it. So I will play it one more time. My bad. That's on me.
Well, go figure, took you long enough. This looks like a confession that Molly McMichael is indeed Gloria and was used and preyed on her vulnerabilities at the time. For example, the 4 a.m. narrative. Those are the messages between a person who doesn't want to get mentioned and Gloria. I highlighted in red the most important part. Molly appears to be a fictional person who was always there whenever she was needed. Played by Gloria. Straighten out the story. So if Molly is a fictional person, what do you think about her husband, Pat McMichael, who got allegedly unalived by this guy way back in 2013, where Molly testified against Mr. Nisbet? I couldn't find any photos of Pat McMichael. Did he even exist? Because fortunately, Gloria and her sweetheart have been together for over 15 years, and Molly was some kind of key witness in the Idaho 4 case and told the body cam she was the DoorDash driver and parked right next to Brian Kohlberger. Are both items staged?
Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I will, let me go back and I will pull up the messages and make them bigger so that we can see them. Okay, so this is wild. All right, check this out. So the person that's messaging Gloria, aka Molly McMichaels, said, yes, I totally understand that. Believe Bill Thompson has used you and preyed on your vulnerabilities at the time. There are a lot of us that believe the state has not been truthful with the story they have put out, and we can see that now through the documents released. And Gloria responds, well, go figure, took y'all long enough. And we know if you watched Lana's interview with the DMV driver, or not the DMV driver, the DMV worker, she was under a gag order immediately. Okay. So, for all we know, these people are still under gag orders, or they're not talking for a different reason. But I mean, this is totally the same person. It's totally the same person. That's a picture on her Facebook. Okay. That is a picture of Loria on her Facebook. And here are some of the other messages. Hey, Lana from Truth and Transparency will pay you to be interviewed by her if you're interested. She would love to have your side of the story of what happened. Just thought I'd reach out and I'd let you know. She goes, what's this about wanting to interview me and pay me? If you want to pay me to interview me and get back to customer. That doesn't even make any sense, does it? Hang on. I feel like I just had a stroke reading that. What's this about wanting to interview me and pay me? If you want to pay me to interview me and get back to customer. She must be doing talk to text. That's the only conclusion that I can come up with. And this person responded saying about what happened in Moscow 2022. She said one of her videos on the Idaho 4 that she would be interested in getting an interview. And she goes, oh, the murders. Yes. I don't know much other than Moscow became quiet. The text thread goes on to say, and I'll do my best to try to get him as centered as I can. Give me a couple of seconds. Here we go. I don't know much other than his Moscow became quiet. Oh, okay. Some people believe you are actually Molly, and she feels you've been unfairly portrayed in the media and would love to hear from you. This person responds saying, even if I was, I wouldn't open myself up to more scrutiny. That's so crazy. Yes, I totally understand that. She believes Bill Thompson has used you and preyed on your vulnerabilities at the time. There are a lot of us that believe the state has not been truthful with the story they have put out, and we can see that now through the documents released. Well, go figure. Took y'all long enough. And let me scroll over again. There are definitely many of us who have questioned it from the jump, but mainstream media was relentlessly pushing a guilty narrative from the start and gaslit the masses. The documents have only confirmed our beliefs. This is not justice for the 4 victims, nor for BK. I don't know why he would plead guilty. There is so little evidence against him. I don't believe the whole DoorDash story. They needed someone to corroborate a timeline. Guys, look at the response. That's how I feel, but he's pled guilty and not. It's on him. And the person sending these texts wanted to remain anonymous to Loria, okay? That person said, I feel like Hitler was so biased and he did that to avoid being put in front of the firing squad. I hope true justice will eventually prevail. I also feel you have been unfairly treated and the state come on. Okay, that's the most that I can see. But how crazy is that? That's huge. So we have somebody that if you look at these photos, this is wild. So what's going on here? So if they will lie about that, and how crazy is it too that Molly McMichaels shows up in these random incidents? She's married to somebody else for the last 15 years, being this Loria chick. Here's where I'm going. Molly McMichaels is an alias. It's an alias, everybody. And so why would they do that? Okay. Well, I've done some research and here is what I was able to find out. Okay. So we have the U.S. Department of Justice guidelines. So the DOJ's guidelines, and this is the Attorney General's guidelines regarding the use of confidential informants. Informants are given unique identifiers. Their identities are protected in public records. Real names are restricted to controlled internal systems. In court and public, names may be withheld or replaced with generic identifiers. It's her CI name. Okay. And I think that they absolutely look alike. And there's other photos I debated, guys, but you guys know me. I don't like to fully like just go and pull up people's Facebook pages or whatever. I'll show a video if somebody else has done it, but I don't like to, full on just, I don't know, go and at least show it on the stream. You guys can go do that. They absolutely are the same person, in my opinion. They're absolutely the same person. And so just wait until you see some of this other stuff as well. Okay. So obviously you all remember the DUI. Now here is the article about that shooting death. So in Moscow, Idaho, a magistrate judge has ruled there's enough evidence to merit a trial for a Moscow man charged with murder in connection with the shooting death of an acquaintance. Nathaniel Nisbet, 28, is charged with a second-degree murder after prosecutors said he shot and killed 42-year-old Charles Pat McMichael during a confrontation at a Moscow home on November 10th. John C. Judge made the ruling Thursday at a preliminary hearing, sending the case to the 2nd District Court for trial, the Lewiston Tribune reported. Police said the shooting took place at the Bel Air Mobile Park. McMichael's wife, Molly McMichael, testified Thursday that she and her husband were to help Erica Rosumondo, Nisbet's wife, change the locks and fix door jams on her mobile phone. Rosumondo said she and her husband were separated and that Nisbet wasn't supposed to be at home. When Pat McMichael went to the trailer, he found the door locked. The woman said when Rosumondo tried to unlock the door, she said she found it was blocked. She said Pat McMichael pushed his way through and that she thought she saw Nisbet near the kitchen. Pat barreled through me into the door through the house. The woman said that they heard 3 or 4 noises described as breaking glass, followed by a pause, and then 3 or 4 more noises, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, so they reference Molly McMichael in that. Okay. And here's something. I'll do a little test here. So people say they don't know if they look alike or not. All right. So let's do this. Who is this, everybody? Is this Molly or is this Loria? Type of 1 if you think it's Molly. Type of 2 if you think it's Loria. And we'll do a little test here. I got a couple photos. Is this Molly McMichaels? What do you guys think? Right? They look alike now because this is Loria. Okay? You can see it up there. I can't believe how many people are saying that it doesn't look like the same person. Did you guys just read the text messages between those people? It's rather obvious that they're hiding somebody's identity, guys. And sometimes whenever I present like this is no offense to anybody in the chat. I need to not read the comments because you guys are so confused that it's confusing me on what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know how much clearer to say it. Molly McMichaels might be a fake name. Molly McMichaels might be just a pseudonym or an alias used for somebody else's name because that person, as people have always suspected, is Molly an informant. Then you read the DOJ's guidelines. They will change your name and hide them from the public records. There's messages between somebody who is reaching out to Loria to go on to Lana's show. And you look at their conversations about how she's been treated unfairly. What person would just go along and respond to those messages and say, yeah, I agree, it's not good, and yeah, it took y'all long enough, if they weren't them? So Molly McMichaels, alias. And we're going to hypothetically talk about that tonight, right? These are all just my opinions. I don't know if this is 100% fact, but it certainly, it looks that way in the video from only available at not available. And I'm going to continue to break down why I believe that they did this. Okay. Think back to how many times we've seen Molly McMichaels on a body cam, and specifically think back to the time that she said, I'm friends with Bill Thompson. Okay, if Molly McMichaels, if you guys remember Scott Payne, who was undercover inside of the outlaw biker gang, he had a different name. When you go undercover, or if you're a confidential informant, you don't use your real name. And so, nonetheless, my point in showing this is the confusion around the DoorDash can now be broken down a little bit more, and you can start to figure out the oddities and at least have some ideas as to why a simple order is so complex and difficult to understand. Because if Molly's using an alias as a CI and is friends with Bill Thompson, this is where we have to start to think. This is what we have to start to think about now. Okay. The DoorDash order creates a legitimate reason for movement, for phone contact, and for somebody approaching the house. There's going to be a time-stamped interaction, as we know and as we've seen. That's a built-in alibi structure right there. You have movement, phone contact, you're approaching the house, and it's time-stamped. You're seen on camera. Okay? And would anybody be surprised with the fake name? This is the last time I'm going to say it, because there's some people that, if you don't think she looks like or does, that's fine. I don't really care. Let's talk about the DoorDash thing. I believe that this is going to make a lot more sense if it is the same person and they've lied about the name. Okay? I need to move on. Otherwise, my brain will just keep going back to that. Now, with that being said, you have the built-in alibi structure. We know how important that DoorDash order is for the timeline. If DoorDash doesn't exist, the last confirmed phone timestamp would be when Maddie and Kaylee were calling Jack, or Dylan and Bethany were texting each other. But then it's not until the 911 call. What does the DoorDash order really solidify? It solidifies that nothing else happened earlier in the night. If they don't have the DoorDash order, Kaylee and Maddie's phones, they go dark at 2:53. By inserting the DoorDash order, it is harder to argue that anything was occurring before that. Because it says everybody's still alive. Xana's on TikTok. Xana must have gotten her food. See, here's the DoorDash. It's in the kitchen. Okay? And this is where you have to flip it. The DoorDash and all of the confusion around it, what should be a simple delivery. And when you listen to Molly's interview with Detective Payne, she says she's done other deliveries in that area before. She's lost for 15 minutes. And like I said, She could literally fall into the house. She's that close around it. She's walking all over the place. She walks with a flashlight to the end of the street, walks back, and she's walking by it 3 or 4 times. She sees Brian, allegedly, drops the food off. There's text messages, again, confirming signs of life, proof of life. Are you having trouble finding it? And yes, thank you, Suthernair. They never wanted to give Molly up. Everybody thought it was a guy at first. And I believe that translucent with the leaked footage of the DUI is what blew the lid off of the DoorDash driver. They were never going to put that out, in my opinion. They kept that under wraps for so long. Okay. So the DoorDash order is meant to solidify one thing, and it is the timeline, and it is proof of life. So if we go from the DoorDash creating a legitimate reason for somebody to be near the house, movement inside the house, there's phone contact, and there's a timestamp interaction. So it's an alibi. It's an alibi for everything. It's an alibi that Brian Koberger hadn't done it yet, allegedly, in the mainstream narrative talking point. It's an alibi that everybody's alive in the house and nothing suspicious is going on, although the audio sounds much different. And if you were to flip it and think that this delivery that takes forever isn't just this mistake, and it's not just random, the DoorDash order is 100% being leveraged. I believe the DoorDash order is being leveraged. If Molly McMichaels is Loria and Molly McMichaels is an alias, and if that's a fake name, that to me confirms confidential informant. That to me confirms friends with Bill Thompson is not an understatement. And I go back to this one obvious question. So was this really one normal drop-off that got confusing, or was somebody using the confusion to their advantage? Is Molly supposed to go there, walk around, act like she can't find the place, be confused, look around for stuff? I'm starting to wonder, is Molly making sure that the food isn't somewhere outside or on somebody else's doorstep? And if it really got quote unquote delivered, if she wasn't really delivering it and she was doing something else, think back to this that I showed last week on the stream. This person made a video and they tagged me in it, and now I'm forgetting their name, and I'm so sorry about that. I can't remember it. It's on the other slideshow. This person had theorized that the disinformation around the DoorDash, which was inserted into the case 1 week after the crime and before the PCA, was Bill Thompson's way of protecting his criminal informant from a law enforcement investigation by creating a fake alibi. If Molly McMichaels is an alias and the real person is an informant, now they're going to be under an investigation. What happens if Bill Thompson's been leveraging Molly McMichaels for information and she's a CI into everything that's going on when it comes to drugs and crime in that area? And Molly allegedly now is going to be under investigation. All of that stuff is going to come to light. People are going to be questioning it and looking into every aspect. So this is what I believe going off of all that. It would have to be one of these two models. Model 1, there was a prior pattern that was reused fast. Model 2 is that a real delivery event got repurposed after the fact. Okay? And I'm going to try to explain this. I have notes on this, so give me 1 second because I have the times and stuff. Okay. I'm going to try to still have this be holy shit as far as a theory goes, where it could line up, but I want to kind of control the chaos of it. Okay. Because I'm not saying that everything is fake, but this for sure is not a lone wolf clean story, as we know. I think that this was it's a real event, as we know, of the murders, but there was a pre-existing activity that was repurposed for one thing, and it was to clean up the narrative. Okay? You listen to Molly with Brett Payne. She talks about doing multiple deliveries, people moving around, parties going on, like around that area, an unknown car, a girl watching from the window, and there is that driver that she believes is Brian Koberger parked right next to him, lingering around way more than normal. Okay? So the house is clearly not asleep and quiet, and it wasn't just quiet and isolated, is what I'm getting at. The environment of when Molly delivered the food was actually perfect for something to happen right before or right after without everyone understanding it in real time. And as I've said, we know the DoorDash creates a legitimate reason for movement, phone contact, someone approaching the house. There's timestamps. It's a built-in alibi structure. If we were to flip it and it ends up getting leveraged, the name problem of Molly or Loria, that's not random if they're the same person. You guys, that's what we need to understand. That's not just by chance. That's not a coincidence. That is a reused alibi going back to 2013 with Nisbet and testifying in that shooting. It's an inconsistent identity if they are the same person. And if we were to approach the rest of this theory without assuming incompetence, which may be hard to do at this point, it's not even that the DoorDash driver is fake. It's just that the identity that's attached to the delivery driver, it's not cleanly tied to the actual person who executed it. So my thought process is this. We in the beginning had heard the DoorDash driver was a male, or at least that's what everybody assumed. What if it was? What if it was? And what if that person did witness something or did call the police and it did happen earlier? That's going to piss some people off. I don't care. I'm convinced there's no lack or no shortage of twisting and switching around the timeline. It's useful to talk through it as far as how quickly it could have happened, and people can have their ideas as to when it happened. But what I'm trying to say is either the DoorDash driver was a guy, but it was the night before, and Molly was somehow leveraged by Bill Thompson to create the alibi. Okay. Now we get to Dylan and the phone contact. That entire situation is very odd too. At 3:51, Dylan's adding a phone contact. At 3:54 or 3:56, it's, are you having problems finding this? And then at 3:59, it's delivered. And Blue Eyed Candy, thank you so much for the super chat, said, agreed. It would be hard to manipulate the DoorDash platform on some levels. The customer service is globally outsourced, which is something to consider. Yes, 100%. I do know that all of these big companies, though, they have a law enforcement a lot of these companies will have like a law enforcement team that just specifically will work with any investigations that are ongoing. That would be my one thing, that maybe that's how they got it. But yeah, if it's Dylan or if it's anybody else that's manipulating it, I don't think that they could do it. They could absolutely change these records. If there's an ongoing investigation that has national security and they call DoorDash and they say, hey, we need you to change, or we need a record that shows this happened at this time. Do you think they'd do it? It's so strange that Molly just so happens to be wandering around lost as the guy that's dressed, clad in black, is walking towards the house. Okay? So if we were to watch, I think I have this here. Oops, shoot. Let me see if I can pull this up quick. Got it. Okay. So we have Linda Lane Car Park. We'll see at 350. And then we're going to see Molly. How do they not run into each other? How does Molly not see this person? Instead, they say that Brian Koberger's parked in the car and she parked next to him. So let's say that it is the suspicious guy clad in black. And let's say that Brian Koberger was parked up there. That's two people right there. But Molly doesn't mention the guy that's in all black. So I'm going to get this synced up and we're going to check this out. Type a 1 in the chat if you're following what I'm saying. That if Molly really was an alias, the DoorDash order being confusing and being not easy to understand, to me, somehow, and it was inserted a week later. We didn't have the footage for how long. We know that Brett Payne and everybody else went and they did drive tests. They went out and they tried to see what would the stuff look like and sound like on the camera. Hey, Molly, make sure that you walk in front of 1122. Just walk like 20 yards past the camera. We want to see what it looks like. Because if not, they're just going to go off of a blurry car. Well, they can't do that because they have to blur license plates. They have to make sure you can't tell if there's fog lamps. They have to do a bunch of other stuff. And I'm still thinking through this, but I believe that that could be one of the first dominoes to fall as far as how this cover-up was coordinated. All right, let me get this going. Oops. And guys, while this is buffering, we're at 500 likes. We have 1,200 people in here. If we can get to 1,000 likes, in the next 15 minutes, I will give away 5 free Hive Plus memberships, okay? So let's try to get to 1,000 likes. Is equal. It's about 5-6 minutes before the clad in black, and we will see Molly as well. One of my other questions, too, was, is there something earlier in the night? Is there a vehicle that could be a DoorDash driver earlier? Is a question that I have. Okay. Mark B, good to see you. Pizza was dropped off at 1:03 a.m. Dropped 3 people off. As we know, there is a pizza box in the back of the house. Xana's mom believed they were at home eating pizzas. That's what she was told by her father, or by Xana's dad. That was the gun rack guy everybody refers to. So think about this. We have gun rack guy, Brian Koberger, Molly McMichaels, and if the gun rack guy is the clad in black dude, so you're telling me that gun rack guy, Brian Koberger's parked up behind the house, and Molly McMichael's wandering around? All of this, really? That's where, again, the digital data. Give me a break. They have to have this. I do not believe that they don't. So the DoorDash, again, it solidifies that Brian hadn't done this yet, and there was nothing going on. It cleans up the narrative in the timeline. One of the things, too, about gun rack guy that I like, don't get me wrong, it sounds like a gun rack, okay? And the third click, I understand that. If they just racked a gun, they're talking very casual. They don't seem to be trying to hide at all. They're on either the phone with somebody. It's very strange. If you're about to go rack a gun and you're staying out of the camera and you're dressed in all black, why would you be talking at all, whether you're on the phone or not? Wouldn't you have this all planned out and communicated before? That's one of my biggest hangups with just it. The conversation sounds very casual, not intense at all. Okay, so here comes Molly. Okay, look for the flash up here. That's a good question, because now does that change that potentially as far as the son delivering pizza? I want to clarify too. I don't know if it's the same person. I think they look very, very similar. And I think it's very odd that if you weren't Molly McMichaels, you would say crystal clearly, I'm not Molly McMichaels. She's clearly saying that she's like, well, what do you want to interview me for? Oh, the murders. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't want to open up myself to more scrutiny. Like, what? The answers are very odd for somebody that's not Molly. And it wouldn't be hard to have a fake profile either created for you. If you're a CI, if people are going to try to figure out who you really are, who you're working with, we know this is not difficult to do. And we know the tools and resources that law enforcement has. Okay, and I'll stop stopping it after this, but guys, I also want to show you this too. Okay? I also want to show you this. Give me a second to get this pulled up. Okay, let's go back to 2022. Oops. Okay, so 2022, this is in July. Okay. So here's what I don't understand about the excuse of Molly not knowing where it is. Okay. So if Molly pulls in, okay, if you guys can see my cursor here, Molly pulls in, she turns, she drives. They said, oh, it's taking her to the back. Okay. So I understand that it might take her to the back, but she goes up here and she parks. This is apparently where she's parked next to Brian Koberger. Will somebody explain to me if the reason she went up here was because it said in the back? How does Molly get all the way down here? What is the thought process? Why is she walking around for 15 minutes? If it says it's taking her to the back, okay, well then clearly she knows that 1122, it's in the back of the house. So why is she out and about for 15 minutes? And then at 3:50, we got Gun Rack Guy who walks towards King Road. And so Molly's up there long enough to see somebody peeking their head up and down out of the window. It doesn't make sense. Exactly, Stacy. She needed to be on camera for the narrative. The other thing too, the suspicious, the whole like country road take me home. I don't know about you all, but after hearing the Sigma Chi brothers saying that they were at the White's apartment for like an A-bar party, some of that noise might be an unpopular opinion. Don't get me wrong. There's screams. There's definitely like horrendous screams. But if there's a party going on and if there's screams, are we able to tell that it's all coming from 1122? I used to be absolutely against that, but now hearing how many people were over at the Whites late at night from 2 to 4:30, and when do you hear all of the screams, right? So if they were there partying, and so I don't know, right? And Steve G does even say there is something going on at the Whites as well in the text messages that got leaked. Just a thought on that. First time that I actually felt like, hey, that might, I could see that. right, so we're going to see Molly on camera soon. It's just so crazy. There comes clad in black guy on the left. You'll see him. You can see him walking right underneath the timestamp right now, right underneath the 50. And then if you look to the left above the silver car, you will see his shadow there. So now this guy is walking. I'd be curious too, because in my opinion, it doesn't even look like Molly on camera. Some people, I don't know. That's my own opinion. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it kind of does. Other times it doesn't, right? I don't know. But if that guy is walking down there at 3:51, how long would it take you to walk and get to where Molly is seen on camera? Right? Like, would it take a minute only? I don't know. So that was at 3:50:45 or 3:50:50 or something. And there's Molly, all blurry. Here's the other thing too. I don't know how many people notice this, but if you go back and you look at the guy, the clad in black dude here, okay, there's a phone light. He has a phone or he's smoking or something. You could see the light and you could see it when he's walking. Okay. So let's watch just this left side screen for that guy. Okay. You'll see the light. So I'll point him out. You will see a phone light right before he walks out of the left side of the screen. Okay. You'll see him soon. He's walking right underneath the timestamp, and you will see a phone flash. So, and it's just weird that then Molly apparently has her phone out. And here's okay, so you guys get the point. How is Molly not seeing anything? And I'm gonna try to put a bow on this now, okay? So when I'm talking about this, saying it would have to be one of these two models, either a prior pattern was reused fast or that a real delivery event got repurposed after the fact. Okay, let me try to make this crystal clearly for everybody. I believe that this is probably the most plausible version right here. And it's that the delivery gets turned into a cover event, not because it's necessarily fabricated from scratch. It's weaponized, as I've been saying. It's something that's already in the system, or it's easy to trigger and get into the system. And it gets used to create a timestamp, a reason for movement, reason for the phone interaction, and it's a benign explanation for someone being near the house. That theory, I believe, can be plausible, and in my mind, it's attractive because it's the full transcript of very weird and not normal friction happening, right? Molly's saying that she spent about 15 minutes trying to find the place. She walked around with a flashlight, went up the road, went back down, saw repeated movement in the window, and only then dropped the food off and left. Again, the obvious question is, was this really one normal drop, one normal delivery that got confusing, or is somebody leveraging that quote unquote confusion? The reason why I ask that question is this. It's a forced alibi, and it would work in this theory, or in theory, not, you guys get my point, but in theory, yes, it would work, because if somebody wanted a documented reason for a person or a device to be at or near that house during a critical time window, a delivery is perfect for that. Like I've said, timestamp, app record, location, movement. It's an innocent explanation. And if the order itself was unusual or delayed or redirected or attached to any other confusing identity chains, potentially being somebody that's not actually the DoorDash driver, then later anyone looking at it sees it's just, oh, it's DoorDash. That's normal behavior, right? Oh, it's delayed. Oh, it's this. It's very simple. And people just stop at the surface. But this would be perfect to blur what actually is going on. And if you connect that back to Molly being a witness, okay, this is her third run into that area of the night. And it's the final one, of course. Her app kept trying to take her around back, and she was stressed because she said it was taking so long. So one could think, okay, she's tired, it's dark, the house numbering was bad, maybe the map was confusing. That seems to be the excuse everybody says for it. Am I right? But my point in saying this is that if the DoorDash is being leveraged, the confusion itself may have been the biggest part of why it is useful, because the longer that she lingered, the more the delivery became a moving timestamp of what should have been a simple porch drop. And that matters because if somebody wanted to use a delivery as a cover, the ideal outcome wouldn't just be a 20 or 30 second drop off with a photo at the door. It would be messy. It'd be an extended presence in the area that completely later will muddy timelines, witnesses, and perceptions. Now you add the girl into the window. She's repeatedly in Payne's interview saying she saw a brunette female in the top left window looking out, disappearing, reappearing, never coming down for the food. That's one of the strangest things in the whole interview that I feel like people just kind of brush over. I find that to be very odd. In addition, it's a tan sedan that Molly sees with a male driver who she did say looked older than typical students, tidy, composed, very non-reactive to Molly's presence walking in the street. And the second layer of this is that if there is parallel surveillance, you could have a holy shit moment right here, because the that the forced alibi theory only gets stronger with that. Because if the gun rack guy is real, or if that's accurate, if the clad in black movement at 350, right? And if Brian's sitting up there, the delivery is what makes that all visible as guilt. Because then they can say, this is the timeline. It happened after the drop off. See the guy in black, hear the gun rack. Brian's parked up there. That's the strongest version of a clean narrative that I believe you could make out of this entire night. So it's not as straightforward as the customer or Xana ordered food and then the food was delivered, because that would be the worst cover of all time. It's not complex and it takes minimal time. It's now you have a chaotic witness that credibility is undermined. Nobody knows what to believe. She's seen on a body cam talking about Brian. She's all over the place emotionally. She's full of irrelevant details. She's very inconsistent on specifics. And she's clearly vulnerable to memory contamination by Payne's interview style. That is probably law enforcement's worst nightmare, when you cannot tightly control a false witness. False witnesses are nothing new. If she's a real witness, then I don't believe that we would see anything that we're seeing play out as we have. I think that that distinction is huge when it comes to this. So again, it's not me saying she's a fake planted driver. There's a real delivery of DoorDash. It's just, how did they exploit it or repurpose it to simplify the narrative after the fact? Because it's just so conveniently covering all of the movement, all of the timing, all the ambiguity around that entire night. And that is so much stronger than if the DoorDash was ordered at 2:15, shows up on their average time of a DoorDash order, 26 minutes plus or minus 10 to 20, or plus 10 minutes at times. The bag, then it's almost like you can see why they would need that. Right? So the bag being inside of the house then, and the plate being in Xana's room, solidifies the delivery happened. Must have not been happening at that time. But it's structurally perfect. It could go either way. And that's where you have to ask yourself if it could be legitimate and this theory is completely off. Okay. Or does it still make sense? You have to distinguish in your head, could this be done rather simply? And really, I think it could. I really believe that it could, especially in the narrative, which we've seen play out. They simplify this DoorDash so much when everything around it is complex. The delivery driver, seen on camera. See, there she is. The food's placed. Although it took forever. Dylan's adding a contact. Then there's a text. Then the food's delivered. Oh, she sees Brian. There's gun rack guy, or the dude that's dressed in all clad in black. Doesn't see that person, though. Sees a tan sedan. So, I don't know. It's very, the best cover up doesn't look very clever. It just looks ordinary. And it looks like there could be a surface level explanation that if you thought anything past it, you'd be like, yeah, I don't know. It's DoorDash. That happens, right? So I don't know. I've been trying to think through the possibilities of the other method, though, right? Meaning, from an operational standpoint, okay, I'm going to go down that direction. From an operational standpoint, how could that make sense? And I don't necessarily have anything outside of, I don't believe that the delivery was planned days in advance. I think that this was just noticed and used, as this is said right here. It's disinformation around the order. It was inserted into the case 1 week after the crime and before the PCA. This is a motive to do that. If Bill Thompson does have a CI that he doesn't want to be under investigation, that may have seen something and doesn't want that CI dragged into the case because of the other strings attached, there would be a motive that if you noticed a delivery, you could coerce them as a witness, because you would say, we need to protect this person that's not named in the case so that it doesn't blow the lid on some other shit that's happening. One's in the chat, if what's on screen is starting to seem more plausible than it did. And I think that if it ever is confirmed that Molly McMichaels is an alias and it's that Luria chick, in my head, that lines up with protecting a CI. It's almost like those are all things that a lot of people have wondered about anyways. Right? And, it's a fake name. Right? It's a fake name. It's not like this. It's not rocket science. Now, the other part, and why I was kind of talking about this, because I think that, that theory that I just had on the screen, or the little screenshot, I read that last week. The other part was that the DoorDash that they said was that the DoorDash was not ordered that night with Xana's name added by the perp. It was a previous night's order. It was marked Xana by Xana to let people know whose food was in the fridge. Whose bag of food is that? When you look at it, the fact that the receipt is handwritten with Sharpie, where is it? And not printed is a little bit odd. Right? That does feel a little bit weird now after seeing that there's not a name printed on it. And Luna, is that true? We are only 20 subscribers away from hitting 40,000, dude. That's insane. We are almost, I'm trying to think, when did I consistently start going live on YouTube full time? I think we're almost right at a year. So that's wild. Thank you to everybody who does hit subscribe. Like I said, it's free. That would be awesome to hit that tonight. Couple super chats. Donnie Brooke Kennel said, DM has got to be the crack in the glass. She's going to blow, and when she does, they better have the bomb shelters ready. What if, I don't know. See, it's like, we have tried to think about what Dylan knows, and all we really ever come back to is she's lying. She's lying about everything. I feel like, in my own mind, we've addressed that enough. I'm starting to think, like, is it worth saying, what if Dylan doesn't know anything? I don't think that, but have we ever thought through, I think a lot of times we stay in this repetitive loop. Like, it's like we're just looping. It's the same shit over and over and over again, because God forbid somebody tries to throw something else out there at times. It's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of other people. I'm sure it's happened to a lot of you in the chat. You try to throw something else out there and people just shit all over it, and it's not effective, but we just continue to loop on the same thing. She's lying. She's lying. Okay. I don't know if we've ever once looked into, is Dylan not lying, right? We've really only ever gone one way on it. And if we were to ever look at that, and I'm not saying I believe that, but I'm saying there are things that we tend to not explore. And I think a big reason of that is because people would lose their mind in the chat if you just thought about it for 10, 20 minutes and had a discussion about it. You guys know what I mean? Or are they scared to talk? I just saw some people in the chat say that. Pop and Switch, what's going on? Thank you so much for the super chat, big super chat, and for supporting the Hive. You rock for that. Thank you. Oh, I always forget how to say this name. Radine said, I also find it very strange that during one of Dylan's interviews, she said how she added Ethan's phone number that night or night before into their phone group chat with house members. Odd. Yeah. Maybe she only had him on Snapchat. I don't know. It could be weird. It very well could be weird. I guess I wouldn't be that surprised about it, because there are people that I only message through certain apps and I don't have their phone number. So that's one that it's like, it is odd that you would think if he's over there all the time that they hadn't exchanged numbers yet. Yes, I agree with that totally. And thank you for the super chat. Conspiraling said, how did Dylan's popcorn wrapper get on top of the DoorDash bag if she made popcorn hours before the DoorDash came? Oh man, this is where my brain just goes to. We are looking at things that have been so manipulated, and we have gone so deep on this information and potentially on we know the narrative is manipulated, but I think we don't give the law enforcement people enough credit for what they are capable of covering up and the resources that they have at their fingertips to do so. We have to stop thinking as civilians and start thinking about, if we were in the 3-letter agencies or if we're a cop, what can we do under the guise of an investigation or the guise of an investigation, right, to cover it up. And Twisted Tebow, thank you so much for the big super chat. Nice. Thank you so much. And Rachel Butler followed that up as well, saying, I live in Moscow. I can order Jack in the Crack on DoorDash and see if they write my name in Sharpie on the bag. Rachel, or is it Rachel? Yeah, Rachel, please do that. Please do that. Are you in our Discord, Rachel? That would be awesome to find out. And actually, too, you know, I'd be curious. Did DoorDash ever used to handwrite that stuff? You know, I don't know. Let me look. Let me just Google this, or I'll use ChatGPT. Let's see. So they did that from 2013 to 2016. So, and like a DOS 82 says, who the F is Toss N? I need more. I don't know either. Thank you for the super chat, though. And guess who said, everyone wants us to doubt ourselves, and now we are. Don't stop using your brains, kids. I agree. I think, look, at the end of the day, there is something to be said about when we look at the crime scene and we look at the narrative and then we look at the interviews that Edie just brought up about the frats being interviewed and shown these crazy knives. It takes me back to the Gabe kid. He was obsessed with knives. Was he ever interviewed ever? Or was he interviewed ever? I'm sure he was. I'm sure there's so much stuff that's on record that's just not FOIA'd and requested. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of sus stuff. I go back to there's no doubt in my mind that if I just don't think that one specific person, especially, and what's confusing about the whole Jack Showalter, Connor Chestnut thing to me is that if apparently nobody liked Showalter or if everybody kind of was weirded out by him, I don't understand the whole cover up thing. And you could say, oh, it's a University of Says, I get it. I've thought through that. I don't understand it. Or in my head, I don't see the motive to cover that up. Right? The university would rather have a lone wolf, maniac, crazy person that has no explanation for why they did it. They never found the murder weapon, and now they got this mess on their hand, versus if they would have said, yeah, there's, somebody who snapped over jealousy or whatever. Like, I don't know. So to me, there's definitely sus stuff in those Sigma Chi interviews. There absolutely is. And Conspiraling said, would cops put Dylan's popcorn wrapper in the DoorDash bag if they went to all that trouble to skew the timeline to prove DoorDash came at 4 a.m.? Or why would the cops put Dylan's popcorn wrapper in the DoorDash bag? I don't know. I don't know. It's a great question. And it's like, guys, isn't it weird? And this is not knocking you, Conspiraling, but it's like we're talking about a popcorn bag inside of a DoorDash order when the order doesn't make any sense. And whether or not it's Molly or the other chick, substance abuse issues, the lack of credibility from Dylan or Bethany or Molly or anybody else. And it's just, what the hell is happening? I think we sometimes I have to fight with myself because there are moments where I feel like we think that we are closer to the truth than we probably are. We think we're getting closer because we've seen documents and we think we know more, but really all we know is just like the details around a bunch of other stuff that still doesn't make sense. Right? And Discord Dawn, shout out to one of my mods, said, I think the DoorDash wasn't even from that night. I think it had been there from before, food in her room also. I don't disagree. I don't think it's unrealistic if they were having a kind of having a day and they were partying all weekend. I don't think it's unrealistic that if there's late night food from the night before and you wake up and you go out and you start doing it all over again, I don't think in college it'd be unrealistic that a plate might sit there over the weekend. So I agree with you, Don. And Radine said, yes, please look at the name on the DoorDash receipt. Oh, that's what you were referring to. Oh, I'm sorry. Radine, this is a random DoorDash bag that I pulled off of Google just to show people that the names are not written in Sharpie. Sorry about that. I should probably clarify that if you were not in the live when I was first doing that. So yes, I can see why that would be confusing. No, this one's from Google just to show that the names are typed. Brandon said, thanks for asking my question. 40K, well deserved. Did we hit 40K? Let me look. We might have. Oh, no, we need 11 more. 11 more people. That's all that need to tap that button. Thank you, Brandon. Donnie Brooke Kennels said, why DoorDash Jack in the Crack when they just eaten pizza? And that's something that there's a big difference of opinion on. And it's not just because there's a Domino's pizza box on the back patio. It's not just because you see a Domino's delivery driver that night earlier. It's not just because Xana's dad said that when he spoke with Xana, she wasn't feeling good. And then Xana's mom repeats that and says, I was under the impression that they were at home and eating pizza. It's not just that. It's how do we not have an answer on it? Right? People want to say stomach contents or this or that. Yeah. Where is all of this stuff? I'm starting to think too that the Dateline leak could have been the data on Xana's phone. They just brushed right over that. And I do want to talk about something that that I've spoken with when it comes to Jeffrey Gentry as well. So give me a second. But Shell Shock said double donation for one double donation for one confirmed truth from DM. Let me think. Murphy was barking. That's it. That's true. We do hear Murphy barking. And it is around 4 a.m. that you start to hear that. So I guess we could confirm that. But yeah, not very much. Edie said, even if we figured it out, how would it actually be set into action to reopen this case? Would anyone touch it? I don't think that this case is going to continue to transpire the way that a typical case would. I don't know what it's going to look like. But I just think that every time that we thought something was going to be normal in this case, it's not. You know what I mean? It's really not. So I don't know how we'd get it reopened. I can't believe there's not a mile-long line of defense attorneys for just from the reasonable doubt aspect. I mean, there's a new book coming out too, April 28th. The mainstream media is finally asking the questions of how does one person not have DNA anywhere and after they killed 4 people and the timeline, you know? So that will be coming out on the 28th. And Boomer said, you made the JFK reference on Saturday, and in case everyone forgot, Jack Showalter's first name is John. The JFK calling card that was sent to the sororities is very strange. It's very strange, and it doesn't seem random. It's actually quite creepy, in my opinion. But that's a good call out and a good reminder. Jack S., his first name is John. Thank you so much. And Gramilla gifted 5 memberships to Hive Plus. Thank you so much. Are we at 1,000 likes yet? I'll drop those 5 if we are. Hey, we're at 40,000. I'll drop them anyways. We are officially at 40,000 subscribers. I love that. Thank you guys so much. That's awesome. That's a year of grinding it out every night with you all. And again, the Hive is just getting started, and we are going to continue to grow and have awesome guests on and keep finding the truth. So I will go ahead and I will gift these 5 Hive Plus memberships. Give me 1 second. We're at 40,001 now. Love that. All right, let's see. So I have to go onto YouTube. I have to pull up the browser. Give me 1 second because I want to see how this works. I've never done it. This is exciting. I wonder who's going to get them because I think they go to random people. So if you're one of the 1,350 plus people in here, you have a chance right now to get Hive Plus, which is cool. So I found the button and Sending 5 now. Let's see who gets him. How do we know who gets him? Oh, we got. All right, here we go. We got Sharon Dombrowski. Everything's redacted. Joanne H, Tracy K, and Leslie PB. Nice. That's awesome. That's fun. That's cool. So I have 5. I get 10 a month. I get 10 a month to do that. So I will continue to do that. Hopefully we'll be doing that for 50K by the end of this month. That'd be great. That's awesome. Thank you to everybody who supported this channel and supported me. I love you guys, really. It's a lot of fun doing this, and I'm grateful to be able to do so. But let's get back to some of these awesome comments now. We got Guess Who? LMA said, is anyone a connoisseur on curly fries? No, but I have seen, I believe they're curly fries, but I have gone down a Reddit thread that people have said that those look like Taco Bell fries of one sort or another. I don't really eat that much fast food since getting married, which is great. I love my wife's cooking. And so it's healthier, but I don't know like any of the new items that these places really have. I don't know if they do look like, well, let's look them up. I can Google it. Duh. Taco Bell nacho fries, nacho curly fries. Okay, this is a little interesting. This is a little bit interesting. And tell me if you guys, I know that it's a common thing, but what do you guys notice on this plate here? The first thing that popped out was the black container and the Taco Bell sauce. So again, we see Jack in the Box, we see the curly fries, we see the cheese, but I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not a connoisseur. I got to get those off the screen. They're making me hungry. I'm not a connoisseur by any means. And Shell Shocked said triple if we get the new Molly on the Hive Live. Well, I've thought about that, and just from out of respect for Lana, if Lana is trying to get this girl on her stream first after seeing those messages, I don't want to be. I don't know. I like Lana, and we work well together, so I don't want to come in and try to like undermine that. But I will. You know what? I'm gonna make a note to text her. I mean because that's a bombshell. Like that's a huge. If that's really the truth and that's really her, you know what I mean? Full transparency. If I was trying to do that, and somebody came in and souped it up, I'd be a little bit pissed. Wouldn't you guys? So I don't want to do that. I would not like if it's done to me. And like I said, Lana's cool. So, yeah, WSU mom should still be coming on. I know she had a surgery or something she was saying. So I'm just kind of keeping my eye out for the chat or an email from her. So, here's what I want to talk about too. When Jeffrey Gentry, so here, just so I have a good understanding, type of 1 in the chat if you watched either the quick cut of the blood spatter expert Jeffrey or you watched the live. Just type of 1, and I want to see if there's anybody that maybe hasn't, because, and I can refresh your memory quickly on what I'm going to talk about. So I got to texting Jeffrey over the weekend, and So in my opinion, we know that Jeffrey is still working in his career. And so that's why he wants to just answer the questions. Right. I see why he's doing that. I don't know if he actually knows what happened or if he's looking at the photos and right. He's asking an answer. I think he provided us with answers that we asked or I think he provided us answers to our questions that we asked. Here is where I have to fight with myself internally. Okay. And I want to talk through this with you all. I do still need to say sorry about the Jeff emoji though. Okay. That I do need to explain that to him. So does anybody find it a little bit strange that Jeffrey said the living room interaction with Kaylee, it's possible, but he believes that on the stairs going up to the room, if she was carried or transported back up there, he would expect to see much different blood. Does anybody find that weird? Because again, the guy, that to me sounded like a very honest answer, not just the mainstream talking point of like, no, people have said it's Xana, right? So stick with me on this. That makes sense. You would expect to see different amount of, or different blood. And when he looks at the living room, he's like, yeah, that is possible. But then he's connecting the actual other part of the house on why it's not looking like she was carried up there. And he doesn't believe that. He really does not believe that. And I asked him, I'm like, straight up, no bias, no influence. You don't think so? He goes, no. And I said, okay, well, I'm not doing anything. Can I send you a couple of questions via text and I'm going to look into them? Because we're not celebrating Easter till next week. My mom just retired and she was on a vacation with her friends. Not that you guys need to know that, but so I didn't do really much. And I was just kind of looking at this stuff. And don't jump down my throat here when I say this. If the Dateline leak was Xana and the elevation or whatever the phone tracking thing that they said, where it says that she went upstairs, right? And we don't see that. We've never seen that. Would anybody be surprised if that was the leak and that is true? Dylan thought it was Kaylee. They told her it was Xana after learning more, right? Like I was saying earlier about Dylan's lying about everything. Let's take a second to just think through this. Okay? Hear me out on this. If Xana did that, how would Kaylee and Maddie's blood get into and on the stairwell or stairway and the half wall? And why would there be blood of Kaylee's diluted? Why would there be a sheath that looks brand new that people have speculated, myself included, was that one of the girls' protection knives? Why have they not found the weapon? Why do they say there might be two weapons? If Xana went and did that, how they portray it, there is a way that I theorized over this weekend that the blood could have gotten to where it did. And the diluted blood of Kaylee could have come from the water being tipped over by somebody running and hitting that table and them having blood on them, right? Jeffrey said that he would not be surprised that upstairs, he would not be surprised that there was no footprints because he's over the top of them. They would have blood on them, but their feet would most likely not be covered in blood. And you see swipe stains and you see, transfer stains on the stairs going down. You're potentially going after Xana. You bump into the pong table and maybe some of Kaylee's blood after she gets grabbed and pulled into the room with Maddie and killed in there. What if the perp threw something at Xana is what I asked. So if the perp doesn't have blood on their feet and is got blood elsewhere, as we know, it would be impossible to not have blood on them. What if the perp threw something at Xana and when they threw it, That's how the cast off gets onto the half wall. That's how the cast off gets by the stairs. And for all we know, that person could have just put their hand, or like, I don't know, they could put their hand or something on the right over the half wall to get it above the steps. So I don't know if they threw a can at her. I actually had a thought of, did they throw a Doc Martin? You see the sock and you see the Doc Martin by itself in the living room. I don't know. But I asked Jeffrey, would that create similar looking blood stains? And he goes, yes, it would. So I don't know if you guys are following that, but is there something that, was their arm swinging? Were they trying to stab her as she's getting away? Right? I don't know. It's just, from a blood standpoint, Jeffrey said that would make more sense just from the blood. It's his expert opinion. We don't have to agree with it. I just thought I would share. Right? Have we ever looked at the bottom of a Doc Martin shoe? Could that be a latent print? Like, have we ever looked at the bottom of a Doc Martin? I've never seen what they look like. Or through a beer can. Let me pull up the Vans shoe print. One second. Oops. So I'll use the one that Jeffrey and his wife made with their overlay thing here. I don't know. What do you guys think? I have no idea. I'm not even saying that this is for sure it. I was just curious if we've ever looked at it. I'm gonna make it bigger. Like, see these? I mean, that kind of. Whoops. That's all wiggly. That's obviously, these are straight lines, but I'm not sure. Does anybody in here have a pair of Doc Martens? Is this the only bottom that it has? I don't want to spend too much time on this damn footprint again, but it's just a thought. I could see that maybe. It does kind of somewhat line up. And is there other lines that go off of it? Yeah, I don't know. It's close. Again, I think a lot of shoes, like, they have similar patterns on the bottom. I don't know. But I don't know if there's lines that go across like that. Let me know, because there's a bunch of different ones, but that was one that I saw that kind of looked close. So here's what we're going to do too. I'm going to, I saw a couple more super chats come in, and UFO Dog, thank you so much for the super chat. Shout out to one of my other mods, said, we have the best chat on YouTube, 40K. You guys absolutely rock for that. And to the people too, the three people that signed up for Hive Plus that had won the giveaway, excuse me, keep an eye out for an email from me. I'm waiting to see on the ETA of something that I'm trying to order for you all. So give me another day on that. And keep an eye out for an email from Birdie's Hive Mind. Sammy said the living room blood is wild. Quick celebration, dance, pay or parkour break. Right? No kidding. No kidding. What the hell happened down there? Right? It's so strange. But I find it interesting. Some of the stuff I've re-listened to Jeffrey's interview now twice. Some of the stuff that we think happened, he's actually fairly against. And for everybody that's like, well, the G's got to him. Well, if you listen to both of his interviews that he came on and talked with us on before the G's ever even talked to him, he says the same stuff, you know? And Sorted Out Sleuthing said, reread the quote, talk to text. I took that as she wants to interview me. What happens if it gets back to the customer? Side note, who's Toss N on the bag? The DoorDash bag was just from Google. So that's the Toss N. Sorry for any confusion on that. I just was showing that they will print out the names, not write them. Reread the talk to text. I took that as she wants to interview me. What happens if it gets back to the customer? Oh, you're talking about only available, not available. So let me go check that out.
Well, go figure, took you long enough. This looks like a confession that Molly McMichael is indeed Loria and was used and preyed on her vulnerabilities at the time. For example, the 4 a.m. narrative. Those are the messages between a person who doesn't want to get mentioned and Loria. I highlighted in red the most important part. Molly appears to be a fictional person.
What's this about? Wanting to interview me and pay me if you want. Wait, okay, let me go back to the super chat then. I took that as she wants to interview me. What happens if it gets back to the customer? You want to interview me, and if you want to pay me to interview me and it gets back to customer. Whoa, hang on. That is weird when you phrase it like that, Sleuth. Sorted Out Sleuthing. So what happens? You know what I'll do? Let me just see. Let me just see if all right. What is most likely trying to be said in this message if someone used talk to text and it did come out 100% accurate? The message appears to be a poorly transcribed voice to text sentence. Based on the context, the most likely intended meaning is, what's this about wanting to interview me and pay me? If you want to pay me to interview me, go ahead, get back to the customer. Or, what's this about you wanting to interview me and pay me? If that's the case, get back to the customer. And look, get back to customer likely is then go ahead and get back to the customer. Huh. Could it be prosecutor and not customer? Teach, learn, serve. Oh, wow. Wow. That would be nuts. So then I would say, what's this about wanting to interview me and pay me? If you want to pay me to interview me, go ahead, get back to the prosecutor. What's the original message again? If you want to pay me to interview me and it gets back to the prosecutor, that could make sense. That's close. So thank you for bringing that back up. And Donnybrook Kennel says, go check out Angie Dodge, Idaho Falls, another police cover up. I will absolutely check that out. Donnybrook Kennels, thank you so much for the suggestion. I saw somebody else ask me too if I've seen Amber Vance's latest video about the jacks and the knife sheath and the DNA. I have been trying to get Amber to come on the stream. So if you guys can leave a comment on her video or her TikTok and let her know. We've been emailing back and forth. I know she was going to come on a couple months ago, but with school, I think getting out or starting or baseball, there's something going on with kids, I think, that made it tough to do 7 p.m. So maybe now there could be a better time. Here's what I want to do. I have a couple of things to quickly go through. We're past our normal, allotted time. So not that I'm necessarily apologizing for a longer stream, but let me get to the things that make you go, And I saw this. This was posted. I don't know if this was in the Discord. I saw this a couple of times. So if somebody did post this in our Discord, let me know in the chat so I can give you credit. But it said, Kohberger then discussed, this is after he's getting arrested. Kohberger then discussed ongoing projects with WSU PD and Pullman PD. Kohberger spoke more about how being a TA is essentially assisting the professors in the department. Kohberger stated he did not get to assist with teaching, with the exception of assisting with office hours. Detective Gilbertson asked Kohberger if he would be a TA again next semester, and Kohberger replied that he would. There is nothing, and you could argue, I will say, people could argue, well, yeah, he has to say that. Otherwise, what's he going to say? No, I'm going to be in prison for the rest of my life. Right? But it is interesting. He very much so seems that he's not guilty. Like, he's fully convinced. Now, I don't even think it's that he's going to get away with it. You got to remember, there's a speck of DNA that's trace DNA with no chain of custody that led to all this. Which is also crazy, too, because if you think back to the DoorDash driver, Molly's a witness that Brian is apparently right behind the house, and that Bill Thompson says we can't put him inside the house, and they can really only put him within, 330 feet or something like that? Yeah, the transcript out of the interview is interesting. Sarah said, yes, he was going to be. Original presser from WSU said he was returning next semester. Now, this is okay, so this comes from a comment that somebody had sent me. I believe it was Cat's Mojo. I think. Again, I apologize for not having the names for these two last slides. I try my best to do that. So if it is you, let me know. But this is a comment that was left under one of Pav's videos that I do find interesting. I don't know how to explain it, but I'll read the comment. You guys, we can dig into this if you guys think we should. But hey, Pav, I hope you saw the post yesterday because it's important. If there's a thread you want to be pulling on, it's the contact in Dylan's phone. The data in the Cellbrite is real proof it was Molly. You just need to learn how to read the data and learn what the function in the log actually means. The contact was created from BLE/airdrop services on iOS. There is no other way this contact could have been created. This isn't debatable, and they were hiding it. It also proves the trap and trace to find Molly originated from DM's phone, and that means they knew the contact alias was Molly to begin with. I can go into way more depth, but I'm not doing that here. Just trust me, this is 100% accurate info I'm giving you. I have a coding background and can write C-logic code, so I get this stuff. There's a 24-second delta from the time Molly was walking beside the house next to Dylan's room and time where she is first seen on the 1112 cam. This also solidifies this, and given the circumstances, there is no other iOS process that could possibly write this data using the interaction C database in a Z directory table. It's statistically impossible for this to be anything else. So I have to do some research into that as to what this person's talking about, but it does seem like they know what they're talking about, to put it simply. And Hive, I hope you all enjoyed this stream. I certainly did. I don't know if Molly is an alias or not. I think they look alike. I think the messages make it seem like there might be something going on there. So I will keep an eye out, as you should too. If Lana does end up interviewing this person, that'd be huge if that comes out. And K Manifesto, thank you so much for the super chat. Said congrats on 40,000 birdie. Special shout out to Taos In for making a cameo in tonight's discussion. That person's probably like, I never would have thought my DoorDash order would be uploaded to Google and then shown on stream and cause confusion in the Idaho 4 case. And Edie said, don't forget Bethany is exculpatory evidence that could clear Brian Koberger, and she cannot be prosecuted, which is signed, and she could not be excluded from Bloody Prince. A lot of stuff happened that we do not know about. Hopefully one day we are privy to learn this stuff. There are so many oddities, like I said in the beginning of the stream when I started. One thing that's odd or off, okay, you could question it. Two things, you should probably look into it. But when there's 3, 4, 5, 10, 30, 1,000 of them, it seems like it's more of a constructed design as far as why so many things are left out, don't make sense, and why there are still questions surrounding them. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Thank you all so much for 40,000 subscribers. I will be back on tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Central. Sleep good, everybody. Cheers.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.